Welcome to the Megacast, our live, local, 5 days a week TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our first story today comes from Bridge, Michigan's Paula Gardner. Crisis averted. Businesses and government leaders alike are breathing a brief sigh of relief after the Biden administration, as well as negotiators, helped facilitate a new deal between two railway unions that remained without a new contract as of last night, just on the verge of a strike that could have had major national economic implications, even worldwide. The process of a new contract being official is not over just yet. However, thus the brief sigh of relief. About 60,000 rail workers still need to vote affirmatively, vote yes, on a new contract, which includes a 24% wage increase through 2024, as well as yearly bonuses of $1,000. Among the concerns of the negotiating workers was their mandatory overtime and 24-hour on-call periods, their limited time off throughout the year, and other concerns, bringing up questions of both quality of life in terms of on-the-job time and work-life balance in and outside of the job. Trains in Michigan carry about 90 million tons of cargo every year, so this is a big deal. Also making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Lily Altavena at the Detroit Free Press. The president of the Oxford Community Schools Board of Education has ended his term 2 years early, submitting his resignation to Superintendent Ken Weaver on Wednesday. Tom Donnelly did not specify to the superintendent why he intended to resign. The school district, however, released a statement on Donnelly's resignation from the school board saying, quote, "This afternoon, September 14th, school board president Tom Donnelly announced that he is resigning from the Oxford Community Schools Board effective today. We are very appreciative to Mr. Donnelly for his years of dedicated service, and we will continue to communicate further information in regards to the open school board position as it becomes available," and closed quote. That as written by Superintendent Ken Weaver. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Craig Mauger and Beth LeBlanc at the Detroit News. Michigan lawmakers are discussing a new bill aimed at attracting jobs in the state of Michigan, and conveniently, it's just in time for the upcoming election. What a concept. The bill, which is under negotiation, would potentially allocate a new round of statewide funding, upwards of $250 million, to entice large economic development projects to the Great Lakes state. With only days left in session between now and the November election, there will be surely a lot of negotiating left to come. Will legislatures reach across the aisle? Most likely they will have to do so to get this deal done. Who it ends up benefiting in the election is yet to be seen, but everybody loves jobs and everyone loves talking about jobs regardless of their side of the aisle. So plenty of more info on this negotiated funding is already in this extensive article from two of the finest journalists in Michigan over at the Detroit News, Craig Mauger and Beth LeBlanc, as well as all of our other headlines. They're on our website, CivicCenterTV.com, on our local news page, along with links to up-to-date information on COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Friday edition of the Megacast. Up next, we'll talk to Gesher Human Services, Jason Charnas, about their upcoming seminars and workshops, including their appearance at the upcoming Metro Detroit Nonprofit Career Expo happening on September 21st. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about the program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on our partnering stations all across the Great Lakes state, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Megacast from Gesher Human Services is Jason Charnas, the Director of Business and Career Services, with us on today's program to talk about their upcoming appearance at September 21st's Metro Detroit Nonprofit Career Expo, which will be held again next Wednesday. That's 2 to 6 p.m. right here where we originate our broadcast in West Bloomfield at the J, otherwise formerly known as the JCC in West Bloomfield. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on with us. So this upcoming Career Expo, it's really interesting because as so many different businesses have been struggling to fill some open jobs and keep themselves as fully staffed as possible to do what they need to do, that's similarly been a struggle for nonprofits who, as opposed to these businesses, tend to have significantly less of a bankroll to be spending to be competitive in these markets. Just how much of a struggle has it been for nonprofits like yours and others that maybe you work with in the community to keep well staffed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the truth is, in addition to all of those other challenges, many nonprofits are small and don't have a robust HR system or don't have a dedicated HR system. And so the recruitment and the idea of finding employees that are interested in working, that are interested in the position, maybe have some skills and experience, have some qualifications is a real challenge. So it goes beyond, of course, nonprofits into the entire community. But for us, this concept, this idea of creating a career expo geared towards nonprofits was something that came about after truly many conversations I had with different nonprofits calling me saying, Jason, we know you and your team work with people looking for employment. We have all these openings. We have 1 opening. We have 10 openings, whatever it might be. Do you have anybody interested? And I heard that over and over. And this isn't a surprise. This has been all over the news. So what I did is I took that information, took that idea and said, how do we help? How do we try something different, or at least different from what we've done here through Gesher Human Services for many years? And that different evolved into, let's bring all of these nonprofits together. Let's focus our time and attention on bringing people into a career expo. So we have nearly 20 nonprofits, well over 100 different job opportunities available throughout. And our goal is to bring people in and to start making some matches. Let people see a variety of different job opportunities, career opportunities, and let's see how we can benefit everybody through this process.
So, Jason, if people want to attend this, it's next week, Wednesday. It's in West Bloomfield at the J Detroit, which used to be called the JCC, 2 to 6 p.m. Is there a registration fee for this? Is there any fee to be participating, or can people just show up?
And that's a great question. We want this to be as easy and accessible of an event as possible. There are no fees to participate. This is about making matches. Our goal is for people to walk away saying, that's the job I want, or those are the 3 jobs I'm interested in. So registration is available. People can register on our website, which is jvshumanservices.org. There's a slider on the top, or you can go .org/Career Expo 2022. But no, you can also just show up. If you're going to show up, if you're going to register, I would encourage people to bring a resume. In fact, I would encourage you to bring 10 or 15 copies of your resume, pass them out. Whether agencies, nonprofits have a position that's available for you and matches your skills and interests and experiences today, or whether that position opens up tomorrow, right? Let them have your resume on file so they can follow back up. Hey, Tyler, we've got this great opportunity. I know we talked briefly at the Career Expo. Let's talk more. I want to email you this opportunity. And equally for folks that are interested in jobs, maybe you have a job and you're looking for a different opportunity or a better opportunity, one that fits your passion better or pays you better, or you find yourself unemployed and ready to re-enter the workforce, whatever the reason is. What a great way to talk with a lot of HR professionals, a lot of recruiters, a lot of department heads that have positions available in their own teams that are there and saying, come, let's talk, let's figure out what we can do and how we can be a match for each other.
We're joined by Jason Charnas from Gesher Human Services, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Again, you can find more information on their website, jvshumanservices.org. And for the Career Expo, jvshumanservices.org/Career Expo 2022. Again, that is on West Maple Road, 6600 West Maple Road in West Bloomfield, Wednesday, September 21st, 2 to 6 p.m. At what was formerly known as the Jewish Community Center of Metro Detroit. It's now known as the J Detroit, and it is free to attend. But Jason, if those are attending, those that may be attending this event maybe aren't necessarily looking for work specifically in nonprofit organizations. They still just want to get some eyes on their resume, some advice from the experts at Gesher Human Services. Can they also do that at this event?
What a great question. So let's take a step back. We have, and I know that we'll have agencies that are looking to fill part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and a huge variety of types of roles and positions. In addition, yes, our staff, the Gesher Human Services staff, the Business and Career Services team, works with people every day to help them with their resume, to help them with cover letter and job search, networking, interviewing, whatever would benefit them. We will have staff on site assisting people with resumes. We'll be making appointments, free service to everybody in the community to help with their resumes if they're interested, to help with their job search if they're interested. We will have a couple of professional photographers helping to take headshots that individuals can use to set up or to update their LinkedIn profiles. LinkedIn, one of the greatest ways to network and find career opportunities. And the best way to utilize LinkedIn is with a full, robust, complete profile, including a picture. And what a great way, instead of trying to take a selfie or getting your friend who knows how to use a phone but doesn't know a thing about photography. So we'll have professional photographers there to take those pictures and email them back to anybody and everybody who attends. So a great service that could cost you $100 or more, depending on how or where you might get that in, anywhere else. So that alone is going to be awesome. Resumes, we will help. We will always help, and we are happy to help for free.
We're joined by Jason Charnas, Director of Business and Career Services at Gesher Human Services, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Again, you can find more information on this upcoming job fair next week, Wednesday, September 21st at the J Detroit in West Bloomfield by visiting jvshumanservices.org/Career Expo 2022, jvshumanservices.org/Career Expo 2022. You can also call them at 248-559-5000. That's 248-559-5000 for more information. Jason, beyond the Career Expo, what are some of your other upcoming seminars and workshops people may want to attend that could really help them get a job?
That's a great question. So let's start with the basics of what we do. We're here to help people looking for employment. We're here to help people that are looking for better employment, a better opportunity, whether that means resume, cover letter, job search, networking, LinkedIn. If somebody is looking for a total career change, but doesn't know what they want to do and isn't sure how to figure it out, which is a real challenge. What do I want to do next? How do I figure that out? Our career counselors have a process, averages about 7 to 10 weeks, where they can work with individuals on helping them to determine or to figure out the career path, whether it's just following college, whether it's mid-career, whether it's near the end of your career. The process works the same. We have upcoming computer class focusing on Microsoft Word and Excel that'll be starting at the end of October. We have a program geared towards specifically women called Women to Work, geared towards women that are looking to re-enter the workforce for any type of reason, a number of reasons, from they've been caring for their parents or their own children, or because of COVID, they've taken time off and they're now ready to re-enter, but not sure how to do it, not sure what steps to take. We have a group program, again, a free program that will help connect women with each other and our staff and throughout that program. Again, that will be occurring later on in October, but we're happy to get set with people anytime.
We're joined by Jason Charnas from Gesher Human Services. Joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find more information on their website, jvshumanservices.org. And again, just for more information, once again, their upcoming job fair next week, the Metro Detroit Nonprofit Career Expo, is happening from 2 to 6 p.m. at the J Detroit, formerly the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit. 2 to 6 p.m. Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. And you can find more information on jvshumanservices.org/Career Expo 2022. Jason, anything else for us today before we let you go?
The final thing is really going to be a repeat. First of all, Tyler, I appreciate your time. Second of all, people that are considering it or think, should I, shouldn't I? Come. Register, don't register, walk in the door, meet some people, pass out resumes, figure out, it'll be a great way to get a sense of types of jobs, wide variety of jobs from teachers to early childhood education, direct care professional, supervisors, managers, AV technicians, fundraising. There's food service positions of all types, LPN, licensed practical nurses, reception, and the list goes on and on and on, full-time, part-time. The variety is such that it could benefit nearly everybody from attending.
Well, Jason, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us and telling us more about this Career Expo as well as other opportunities with Gesher Human Services.
Thanks so much.
jvshumanservices.org is their website. And for the final time, the Metro Detroit Nonprofit Career Expo, Metro Detroit Nonprofit Career Expo happens Wednesday. And it's next week, Wednesday, September 21st, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., 6600 West Maple Road. That's at what was formerly the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit, and it's now known as the J Detroit. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll keep talking about business and economics with Michael Greiner from Oakland University. Plenty of news to get into next on the Megacast.
Mark your calendars for the 11th Annual Family Fun Night at West Bloomfield High School. Stop by on Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. for an evening of free, fun activities as we honor our military, police, and fire heroes. Plus, stick around to see Laker football take on Clarkston at 7 p.m. To find out more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit wbsd.org/community/family fun night.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. Ew. will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our website, learn more about our show on our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll find more information on our partnering stations all across the Great Lakes State, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Megacast from Oakland University is Michael Greiner. He is an assistant professor of management at the Oakland University School of Business Administration. Back with us once again on today's program. Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be back. Happy Friday, Tyler.
Yes, happy Friday to you as well. And there's been some big news this week, some high pressure news as well, particularly on the rails, as railway workers were negotiating new contracts in several unions across the U.S. And that had the potential. We've had a couple here in Michigan, as there's been a very brief sigh of relief with most of the negotiations being complete at this time, but that came really close to being a big economic issue here in the U.S. and therefore around the world.
It did. And this is probably the biggest story that most people aren't even going to be aware about, because basically they came to a deal about 2 a.m. In the morning where the contract was set to expire. So they came very close, and it basically required intervention by the White House. And in particular, the Secretary of Labor personally got involved in the negotiations, with President Biden even calling and directly talking to some of the parties to really pressure them to get something done. And so this is a huge story. You know, had the rails gone on strike, we would have essentially fallen into recession. There's no doubt about that. About a third of the cargo in our country is transported by rail. And you saw just a little bit of impact that we had as a result of the supply chain issues back during the COVID pandemic. And that was minor compared to the impact that we would have had as a result of a rail strike. And in fact, I believe the last rail strike was in 1992. And the impact was so bad that literally after 3 days, Congress stepped in and essentially imposed a contract on the parties because of the fact that the economy just couldn't sustain it. So the fact that they were able to come up with a negotiated settlement that both parties agreed to, I understand neither party is entirely happy with it, which is, a good sign, actually, when it comes to negotiations. Shows that we've really averted what could have been a real tragedy for our economy.
So these are kind of commonplace negotiations. Union contracts expire over the years and they get renegotiated. And generally, we haven't heard much about these kinds of renegotiations, particularly as it pertains to the supply chain in past decades, if ever at all, in some cases. So why now? Why this time did it become such a hotly negotiated contract dispute between the unions and their bosses, as well as then intervention from the government?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And it really comes back to, once again, COVID, where we've got lower labor force participation. So as a result of that, you've got much higher demand for workers out there. And what happened as we went into COVID, of course, the railroads, like just about everybody else, laid off hundreds of thousands of workers, actually. And when they tried to call them back, then a certain percentage of them decided they did not want to come back to work. As a result of that, there's been, number one, incredibly high demand on the workers who did come back, where many of them haven't even been able to get days off to do things like go to the doctor, or when they've gotten sick with COVID, they haven't been able to get time off. And actually, there's been this situation where even when workers go and have to take time off to go to the doctor or because they're sick with COVID, it's ultimately led to them losing their jobs, if you can believe it. And then that leads to even more stress upon the workers who remain. So the biggest issue for the workers actually was the fact that they have been working so much and have been getting so little relief, and the railroads have really been pressuring them to work more because of the fact that they have fewer workers out there, that's caused all kinds of disruptions in the lives of the workers. At the same time, the railroads are kind of at a disadvantage now because of the fact that since there is this tightened labor market out there, they can't just go out and hire new people. So the workers in the union felt really empowered to go forward and kind of press their advantage right now because they knew that the railroads couldn't just turn around and essentially hire replacement workers to replace all the people who'd gone off on strike. So the union was feeling strong while at the same time also feeling that they had some very serious grievances that needed to be addressed. As it turns out, actually, this contract expired back in 2019. But you're right about the fact that nothing happened until basically you had the confluence of these two things happening at the same time.
We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University School of Business Administration, where he serves as an assistant professor of management, joining us today on the Megacast. Again, you can find more information on all the programs at Oakland University at oakland.edu, oakland.edu for more information on that as well. And one more question on this particular issue, Michael, as it pertains to Michigan. I read an article from Bridge, Michigan this morning about this issue, about the end of these negotiations, that from Michigan, about 90 million tons of cargo are brought through the state on an annual basis by the railways. And so you mentioned earlier on, if this negotiation went awry and this contract wasn't reached in the wee hours of this Friday morning, that it would have certainly put the U.S. in almost immediately into a recession. But just how much of an immediate impact would a shutdown of our railways, or in some cases, or on a major scale like this, had economically, not only on Michigan, but the U.S. and the world?
Yeah, well, certainly Michigan would have felt the impact greatly because, of course, we're a manufacturing state. You know, we rely upon the fact that we've got these parts that could come in and that the manufactured goods are able to get out of the state. And we saw again during COVID where, as a result of the shortage of semiconductors, some of the auto manufacturers had to actually shut down certain plants, and we saw huge disruption as a result of that. Well, that disruption, again, would have been minor compared to what we would have seen as a result of a rail strike. Because, again, this is an environment where manufacturers operate on a just-in-time inventory approach, where they wait for the day that they need a certain part before they have the part shipped to them. And the reason that they do that is, then they don't have warehousing costs and they're able to kind of offer more customized goods to their customers. So it's a good thing for everybody involved. The problem is, though, is if you have any disruption in that supply chain, all of a sudden the whole chain gets thrown off. And having the railroads not working would have been a huge disruption in that supply chain. And, it reminds me of that old joke that they always tell that, when the country gets a cold, Michigan gets pneumonia. And I think that's certainly what we would have seen had we seen a railroad strike this time.
Yeah, certainly have seen some major economic impacts of past crises right here in Michigan at an inflated rate from other areas across the U.S. We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University, assistant professor of management in their School of Business Administration, on today's edition of the Megacast. More interesting things happening economically. We've seen some numbers come out recently that in a report from the New York Times that pandemic aid over the last couple of years has significantly impacted the childhood poverty rate, and it's at its lowest since the 90s. Just how much of an impact did that have on the child poverty rate, and how do you believe that might impact the way that further government aid may be brought down the line, particularly from the Biden administration in his 2 remaining years in office before the next election?
Yeah, this is actually kind of an exciting story. And it's one more example of where because we're always focused on the bad news. Sometimes we miss the good news stories. And really what we've seen is starting in the 1990s when there was the welfare reform package that was passed during the Clinton administration, there's been this steady decline in child poverty. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there was essentially a deal made when they passed that legislation. The deal was that, hey, we're going to require these people to work to be able to get some of these benefits. But on the other hand, when they do work, we're going to give more generous benefits. Well, as it turns out, many of the single mothers who essentially were kind of pushed back into the workforce as a result of this legislation have found that they're able to work relatively easily compared to what the expectations were at the time that the legislation passed. At the same time, they've benefited from more generous, what they used to call food stamps, but now are called SNAPs. I think it's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And there are some other programs that have also been very helpful. And as a result of that, there's been this steady decline in childhood poverty, which has been remarkable, really, since the mid-1990s. Now, that accelerated then as a result of the pandemic aid that was passed last year, when there was the expansion of the child's tax credit. And many parents might remember where there was this $300 a month that was being sent directly to their bank accounts every month. And that lasted for about a year. And as it turns out, that had a dramatic impact on childhood poverty, essentially pushing that off a cliff. And childhood poverty, for the first time, really since it's been recorded, has dropped to about 5.2% of total children, which is really a remarkable accomplishment. Now, of course, that tax credit expired. So the question is that going to bounce back? My guess is probably yes. But you raise a great point, which is that now, as a result of this data, I think you're going to expect to see increased pressure to bring back that child tax credit. And in fact, there's talk right now where there's some pressure to address some of the problems that were essentially created when the tax cuts were passed during the last administration. And the response of many of the Democrats now in Congress are saying, hey, if we're going to address these issues that exist with the legislation that was passed during the last administration, we're going to have to see this child tax credit come back. And there's now this data really provides a lot of support for that kind of approach. And so I would not be surprised if we see it coming back, at least in some form, in the relative near future.
Yeah, one of the interesting questions that I had back when all this aid was initially being put into place was how do you maintain some of these programs after the pandemic is past us, or after these economic issues related to the pandemic are kind of in the rearview mirror? Because if you're giving this sort of an economic bump to families that are facing poverty and that lifts them out of it, maybe that's enough of a catapult to keep some of those families, a small percentage of them, from going back into poverty. But once that money is gone, that could be you could have just a recurring issue there. And then what's it really for? So it's nice to see that aid is having a nice impact. And it's good to hear, too, that that's being something that's received on both sides as really being something that could stick around for a while.
Yeah, and that's a great point, too. I mean, one thing that's been shown repeatedly is that when children are kind of brought out of poverty, their long-term earnings, their contribution to the economy is much more significant. They have much better outcomes. So in the long run, it's probably a win-win for the economy. But you're right, in the short run, it requires some budget balancing, no doubt about it.
We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University on today's edition of the Megacast. He is an assistant professor of management in their School of Business Administration. You can learn more information about programs through their School of Business Administration by visiting oakland.edu for more information on all that. In terms of inflation, between the U.S. railroads being on the verge of a big strike, between all the other economic issues and some uncertainty on Wall Street, inflation continues to be at annoyingly large highs for so many people. It remains stubbornly high in August, and consumers and investors alike have had pretty common reactions to those, being a little more careful with their money. How much of an impact are these other issues, such as the railroad negotiations and continued issues overseas, really having on what the government and what business and industry can do to prevent further exacerbation of this issue right here in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a crazy week for inflation statistics. The irony is on Monday we got some good news where there's a survey that looks at the expectations that people have for inflation, and those actually went down pretty substantially. And again, we've talked about this before, but you can't underestimate the importance of psychology to economics. If people are expecting that there's going to be higher inflation, then they're going to demand higher wages. And that then is going to translate to more inflation. So it becomes that old wage price spiral. And that's something that they really want to avoid. So the fact that that went down on Monday, everybody is saying, oh, that's good news. And I think that there's been this sense among a lot of investors that, hey, we're starting to see some impact on inflation. Things seem to be heading in the right direction. Then on Wednesday, we got a report that was really kind of devastating. While it did show that, yes, gas prices have continued to go down. And as a result, what's called the consumer price index has it basically went down just a hair. What's really of concern is what's called the core inflation, and that looks at things excluding things like energy prices and food, which tend to be more volatile. And there we actually saw a pretty big uptick, and that tends to be the type of thing that the Federal Reserve looks at more closely when they're trying to determine if they're doing the job that they need to with inflation. And I think it's fair to say that based upon the report that we received here, you're going to see the Fed continuing to move aggressively to try to tame inflation. They have another meeting next week. I expect that we're going to see another 0.75% increase in the interest rates, which will continue to drive up interest rates. And as we talked about last time, the Fed chair was quite explicit about the fact that they're going to keep working on this until they get the job done. This report clearly showed the job is not done. But then yesterday, we get a report showing that, the producer price index, which shows how much producers are charging for things, has gone down a little bit. And that's kind of what we call a leading indicator, which means that the effects of that aren't quite felt yet, because those price reductions get passed on to consumers down the road. So my guess is people are going to start to be feeling a little more positive about things. But I think until we start to see some calming down of inflation at the consumer price index level, you're really going to see the Fed continuing with their aggressive effort to try to tame inflation.
We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University. On today's edition of the Megacast, you can find more information on their School of Business Administration programs and other programs at Oakland by visiting oakland.edu for all that information, oakland.edu for more info. Michael, what sort of forecasts are there for a timeline on these inflation issues? When could we see some improvement, at least from where the projections are from experts and economists at this point in time?
You see, that's the hard thing, Tyler, and you've really put your finger on it, which is that, it's really hard to estimate these things. I mean, number one, there are so many things that are out of our control that are impacting it. Of course, we've got the war in Ukraine that continues to have impacts on it. That's what really caused the big jump up in oil prices that we saw early on. And it's also part of what's impacting right now the price of electricity and natural gas. And part of the reason that electricity has gone up is because we generate so much electricity with natural gas. But there are other things that are impacted as well. We see the supply chain issues kind of calming down. And as we talked about earlier, had there been this rail strike, that would have gone berserk. And we would have seen a whole new issue arise there, which certainly would have directly impacted inflation. But that's been calming down. So that's where everybody was starting to feel, maybe we're going to get some good news here. But I think part of that is driven by what we call motivated reasoning, where people would like inflation to go down. I think all of us want to see it go down. So, we're more likely to kind of emphasize indications that seem to indicate that, maybe things are getting better, rather than looking at things that say, we've still got a ways to go on this. And the one thing that still seems to indicate that we've got a ways to go on this is the fact that the economy remains hot. And the best indicator of that is the job market. And the job market remains hot. We just received last week another report showing that we had really aggressive hiring. The labor force participation ticked up a little bit, but overall, that's down still. And my guess is that's going to remain down, which means that we're going to continue to have a tight labor market. And that's going to mean that again, as we talked about with like the rail strike, that there's going to be the employees are going to be in a position where they can demand higher wages and better working conditions. And that then is going to create more pressure on inflation as well. So until we start to see some slowing down of the economy, really, particularly as indicated by the labor force figures, my guess is that we're really not going to see some progress on inflation. And at this point, we really don't have any indication that that's starting to slow down. So my guess is it's going to be at least a few more months before we start to see inflation really starting to come down in any kind of meaningful way.
We're joined by Michael Greiner on today's edition of the Megacast from Oakland University. And yeah, that's going to be the big concern for people going forward is when can we start to see this improvement? And it's going to be tough to gauge that with the continued fluctuations across the economy. They're not really moving in unison. And so I would imagine that makes it really hard for economists in particular, but also those in the government, especially at the Fed, that have the biggest sway in the impact of inflation in our communities can have on forecasting where this goes.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, I think we saw an indication of that with the reaction of the markets to the announcement regarding the higher inflation figures. And what that was is I think that the investors, what they were saying is, oh, you know, we're going to start to see some reduction in inflation, and that should indicate that the Fed will start slowing down on their rate increases. When we got the pretty negative report there, all of a sudden you saw a crash in the stock market. Well, you know, people get all upset about that. And, you know, as we've talked about before, I think that concern is a little bit overstated because it really indicates more investors shifting their investments from stocks to bonds, which bonds obviously do better when inflation rates are higher because they get interest on them. But you know, it shows that here you had these professional investors, Wall Street, essentially looking at what they expected, and they were shocked with what actually ended up being reported when the government reported the statistics. So it just shows how difficult this is to try to estimate. Because believe me, if Wall Street thought that they knew what was coming, they would have bet that way with their dollars. And the fact that they completely misread it just shows how difficult it is to kind of try to estimate this.
And it's going to continue to be difficult. There's going to be more news that comes in the coming days, weeks, and months that will certainly have an impact on that. And for all that information, we'll come back right here to talk with you, Michael. Thanks for joining us today.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Tyler. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Oakland.edu for more information on School of Business Administration programs and more. Oakland.edu for more information. We'll take a break. We'll come back, review some of our upcoming programming tonight and over the weekend, and other information regarding the Megacast next. You're watching, listening to the Megacast on our family of TV, radio, and streaming networks.
Mark your calendars for the 11th annual Family Fun Night at West Bloomfield High School. Stop by on Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. for an evening of free, fun activities as we honor our military, police, and fire heroes. Plus, stick around to see Laker football take on Clarkston at 7 p.m. To find out more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit wbsd.org/community/family fun night.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. We'll find information on all of our partnering stations all across the Great Lakes state, including My Michigan TV. Let me tell you more about My Michigan TV because it's really interesting. It's the one place that you can view us on your computer, on your laptop, on your smartphone, on your smart TV, on your tablets, mymytv.com. That's mymitv.com for more information, or go to our Megacast page on civiccentertv.com/megacast and click on My Michigan TV. There you can find all their original programming, such as the Megacast, as well as Lato Live that precedes us on our live shows at 11, or supersedes us on our live shows after our live shows at 11 o'clock. Monday through Friday on My Michigan TV. You can find all their original programming on demand, as well as imported programs all about the state of Michigan right there on mymytv.com, as well as more information about where you can download their free apps for your smartphones and your smart TVs. Go to your favorite app store, just search My Michigan TV, and you can download that. And then if you're not home, if you're not able to watch on Civic Center TV in the Greater West Bloomfield area or on Birmingham area municipal access, or you're not driving through the Birmingham Bloomfield area and can't listen to us on the BIF on 88.1 FM, you can always find us on My Michigan TV's free smartphone app, and you can watch us on the big screen at home. My Michigan TV on its free smart TV app. You can find it on a number of different places. Again, My Michigan TV is what you search on your local apps, on your favorite app store, or visit mymytv.com, mymytv.com for more information. You'll also find tonight, it's Friday night, and that means in Michigan it is Friday night lights on our high school football fields. That includes right here in Southeast Michigan. A lot of really good games coming up on the docket tonight. One of them is happening in the Detroit area. Detroit Cass Tech versus Martin Luther King. You're going to see a couple of juggernauts go up against each other. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff, and that is the Valley Sports game of the week. But right here in Greater West Bloomfield on our flagship Civic Center TV, as well as our co-flagship My Michigan TV, their game of the week is the big rivalry matchup on Family Fun Night at West Bloomfield High School. The Lakers taking on the Clarkston Wolves. Lakers coming into this game 3-0, kicking off OAA division, Red Division play last week at Stony Creek with a big victory, 42-23. And Clarkston last week going in to Rochester Adams and their own field and taking them out 45-35. They're coming in 2-1. Their only loss was to Davison by 7 points in week 1 at the Big House, and they're coming in with a very powerful team. Excellent quarterback play last week from Michael Hine, a versatile quarterback, over 200 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing, and a touchdown for him as well. Ethan Clark is only the second player in the history of Clarkston Wolves football program to rush for 3,000 career yards. That's a tough feat in high school football. He's having a great season, several big plays last week in Clarkston. And watch out for other guys too. Desmond Stevens is a guy that a lot of people across the state are looking at as one of those players that's coming out this year and it's going to have a breakout year. He already is. And Cole Jarvis last week had a really great game for Clarkston, but West Bloomfield is loaded in all three phases as well. Samaj Morgan last week had a hat trick, 3 touchdowns, and not just that, it's a true hat trick, one in each phase of the game. A receiving touchdown on the offensive side. He had he stripped the ball away from the running back last week and ended up taking it to the house for a touchdown. So that's a defensive touchdown. And then he had a kickoff return for a touchdown as well. So that's 3 touchdowns in all 3 phases. A hat trick last week for Samaj Morgan, who's climbing up the ranks for Mr. Football through State Champs Network. If you want to find more information on that as well. And then you can't discount the talent of the quarterback on the West Bloomfield Lakers, Rick Nance, also having an excellent season last week. Kenneth Jones, Jaws, had a great season, had a great game in the backfield, rushing for a touchdown, including a 90-yard touchdown against Stony Creek. And then on the defensive side of the ball, excellent defensive line, Brandon Davis Swain on the edge, along with Jonathan Gabriel, Stephen Fountain on the other side. Great season so far for Xavier Davis. This linebacking core with Montel Johnson and Rob Harris, also very potent. You're going to see a lot of talent. What I'm getting at is you're going to see so much talent on the gridiron at the Swamp tonight at West Bloomfield High School, and it's all broadcast on our website, civiccentertv.com/LakersSports. We'll have a live stream there. We'll also have live video and audio of the game on Civic Center TV in the Greater West Bloomfield area, Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99 as well on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, and online, My Michigan TV on the free MyMyTV smartphone app and smart TV app, as well as the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield School District. Coverage begins at about 6 o'clock for the game with This Week in Laker Football, where I'll talk to Coach Grice, the head coach of the West Bloomfield Lakers football team, as well as defensive lineman Jonathan Gabriel about last week's game, previewing this week's game, and more. Then we'll have an extended pregame show about 6:20, 6:30 today. Dave Scott, our play-by-play announcer, as well as me, I'll be your color commentator, will preview tonight's big game in the OAA Red Division. One of these teams is going to come out atop the OAA Red Division tonight, and it's going to be a big game right here in West Bloomfield. Again, civiccentertv.com/LakerSports for that game. And beforehand, throughout this afternoon, you can also go there, check out This Week in Laker Football on your own time and preview this game, as well as get to know your West Bloomfield Lakers football team. civiccentertv.com/LakerSports for all of that. In terms of the Megacast, if you're just tuning in, you've missed most of our show, or you've come back and forth throughout this as you're getting your work day in order today, and we appreciate you joining us. civiccentertv.com/Megacast. We have information on all of our partnering stations, including in your local area. Find them on our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Enjoy all their other original programming in the 23 hours of the day that they're not joining us live. And no, maybe it's less than 23 hours that they're not with us each day. They may replay us several times. Check your local listings with your local programming, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. And you know what? Watch us on your own time as well. We have all of our full shows and each individual interview posted there, usually mid to late afternoon every single day. Just click on our Watch Full Interviews or Watch Full Episodes link right there on our Megacast page. Big thank you to all of our guests today and throughout the week on the Megacast, as well as our dedicated crew, Jared Clark and Calvin Brown at the studio of My Michigan TV, and the king of television, our producer, Larry Nyland, helping us with each and every edition of the Megacast. I hope you have a great weekend and tune in tonight for West Bloomfield Laker football across our flagship stations. We'll return with new Megacasts on Monday.